I'm not sure if we're live or not yet, but it's 10 o'clock in the morning on Shabbat morning, so Shabbat Shalom. And welcome to Addith Emmanuel, whether you're joining us here in person in the sanctuary or you're joining us through, as I say, the blessing of technology. And if you are, feel free to say Shabbat Shalom in the chat and where it is you're joining us this morning. And for those who have not yet put on their talit, we are on page 190 in the brackets. As I wrap myself in the talit, I fulfill the mitzvah of my Creator. Bless Adonai, O my soul. Adonai, my God, how great you are. You are robed in glory and majesty, wrapping yourself in light as in a garment, spreading forth the heavens like a curtain. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehit atef batzitzit. And for those who are joining us through the blessing of technology, I am not sure how to, I don't know if you can put any comments in the YouTube version, but on the Facebook page you can if you have access to that. And we'll be doing a study this morning, so if you can switch over to Facebook later, I'll be giving a handout and I'll be able to hopefully put the document in the chat. There we go. We are live. So we start out in song as we turn to page 188 in the brackets. Hine ma tov, how good and pleasant it is that we are here together. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. And let's turn back for a moment to page 184 in the brackets as we read this passage at the beginning, our inspiration for prayer. Each of us enters this sanctuary with a different need. Some hearts are full of peace and gratitude, overflowing with love and joy. They are eager to confront the day, to make the world a better place. They are recovering from illness or have escaped misfortune. We rejoice with them. Some hearts ache with sorrow. Disappointments weigh heavily on them. Families have been broken. Loved ones lie on a bed of pain. Death has taken a cherished loved one. May our presence and caring bring them comfort. Some hearts are embittered. Ideals are betrayed and mocked. Answers sought in vain. Life has lost its meaning and value. May the knowledge that we too are searching restore our hope and renew our faith. We continue now on page 194.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill. Creating the body's many pathways and openings, it is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously.
Baruch atah Adonai, rofecho basar umafli la'asot. And on page 196.
My God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it. You shaped it. You breathed it into me. And you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God, God of our ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind.
Baruch atah Adonai, asher biado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol besar ish. We turn now to page 198 in the brackets, and I would invite anyone before we dive into our written Nisim B'chol Yom, those miracles of every day, those things for which we're grateful. If anybody has something to share that for which you're grateful this past week. Just to be here. Yes? Yes. Amen. So we join together in these blessings of these daily miracles, which we try to remember not to take for granted. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech vivina lahavchin ben yom uvein laila. Let's try something today that's a little bit different. We're going to do Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, and then we're just going to do that second line in English. So it will be, we're on the second one for vision. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. We continue on page 206, if the person who has the microphone next would lead us in that passage. Unless you choose, you can pass the microphone along to the next person.
These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world. while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
We continue on page 215, 215. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yehalelucha selah. Ashrei ha'am shekach lo, Ashrei ha'am shadonai Elohav, tila leDavid, aromimcha Elohai hamelech, v'avarcha shimcha l'olam va'ed. V'chol yom avarcheka, v'alela shimcha l'olam va'ed. Gadol Adonai umhulal me'od, v'ligdulato ein cheker. Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, ugvurotecha yagidu. Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha. Ve'ezuz norotecha yomeru, ugdulatcha asaprena. Zecher rabtucha yabiu, v'tzitkatcha yiranenu. Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdol chesed. Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yivarchucha. Kevod malchutcha yomeru, ugvuratcha yidaberu. Lehodia livnei ha'adam gevurotav, Uchvod hadar malchuto, malchutcha malchut kol olamim, umem shaltecha bechol dor vador. Somech Adonai lechol hanoflim, v'zokef lechol hakfufim. Einei chol elecha yisaberu, v'ata noten lahem et ochlam b'ito. Poteach et yadecha, umaspiach lechol chai ratzon. Tzaddik Adonai b'chol dorachav, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. Karov Adonai lechol korav, lechol asher yikra'uhu ve'emet. Ritzon yireav yaseh, ve'et shavatam yishma v'yoshiem. Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, ve'et kol harashaim yashmi. Tilat Adonai yidaber pi, vivarei kol basar shem kodsho leolam va'ed, va'anachnu nivarech yam, me'ata v'ad olam, hallelujah. We continue on page 224, 224 in the brackets. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, uv'izman kariv, v'imeru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach, le'olam u'lomei almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal, shemei dekudesha b'riyechu, le'la min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram v'yalma, v'imeru, amen. On page 226, we rise in body and spirit as we're able for Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la 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 la. la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamivorach. Baruch Adonai Hamivorach, Hamivorach leolam vaed. Hamivorach, Hamivorach leolam vaed. On page 228 in the brackets. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mala ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, va'al ma'orei or she'asita yifarucha selah. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu mehera leoro. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. This prayer, Yotzer, is about creation, and it's praising God, especially for the sun in the morning. We have another creation prayer at night, Ma'ariv, where God brings on the darkness. And I especially love a day after it snows, where we have the white blanketing, especially when the roads are clear, and we have the white blanketing the sides, and the sun reflects off that snow, and it sparkles, and it brings even more light to our day. We continue on page 232, page 232. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. May be seated as we turn to page 234 in the brackets, chanting Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadivarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lektecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isha'arecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. If the person who has the microphone next would lead us, please, in page 239 at the top of the page.
There is no place where you are not. Even in the wilderness, there is your word. That pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame. Stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established, now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice.
Rejoicing with Mi Chamocha on the next page. Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osei feleh, Nora tehilot osei feleh. Malchutecha uvanecha, bokei ayam lifnei Moshe. Ze'lianu ve'amru, Ze'lianu ve'amru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Second paragraph. Shira chadasha shibechu ge'ulim l'shimcha sefat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu ve'ameru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. As we're able, we rise in body and spirit, continuing on page 242 with tefillah. Adonai sipatai tivta Ufia gita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atah Rab Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Nechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem emunato lishene afar michamocha ba'al gevurot umido melach melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la la la. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kishem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom, kakatuv al yad neviecha, vekara ze el ze ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivaot, Melocho haaretz kivodo adir adireinu Adonai Adonenu madir shimcha bechol haaretz Baruch kivod Adonai Mimkomo Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Hu Yashmienu Berachamav Le'enei Kol Chai Ani Adonai Elohechem Yimloch Adonai leolam Elohai Zion Lidor Vador Hallelujah 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 Hallelujah. May be seated. We continue at the top of page 253. Page 253, if the person who has the microphone next would lead us.
We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope. For Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living. For Shabbat memories flowing even in darkness. For Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God.
Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue on page 257. If the person who has the microphone next, let me just check on the battery status. Hang on a second. Okay.
For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations.
Modim
King,
anachnu lach.
For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons.
Modim anachnu lach.
For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements.
Modim anachnu lach.
For human community, our common past and future hope, for oneness, transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression,
Modim anachnu lach.
for high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared,
Modim anachnu lach.
for all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom,
Modim anachnu lach.
for human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
Modim anachnu lach.
We pray that we may live, not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds.
Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulachana elehodot. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. V'rachamim. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amecha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. We continue our prayer now silently, whether we are led by the words on the pages of our Siddur through page 261 in the brackets, or other prayers in the prayer books, or those meditations and thoughts in our hearts. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, Ase shalom Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose Shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ose Shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ose Shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We turn now in our service to Seder Kriyat Torah for the reading of the Torah. And so we turn in our prayer books to page 364. Page 364. As we are able, we rise in body and spirit. Larry? Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udvar Adonai mirushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udvar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah Yisrael, Torah Yisrael. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti uneromema Shemo yachtav. Lecha Adonai hagedura v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Ki chol bashamai baret, ki chol bashamai mubaret. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'yamit naseh lechol erosh. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Our Torah portion this Shabbat morning is Vayeshev, and it introduces the story of Joseph, hence my sweater coat of many colors. And I am going to be mentioning the coat in the words that I'll be reading this morning, but they're coming a little further in the portion. Genesis chapter 37, verse 27 and following, so you can follow along in the Plout commentary on page 246, page 246, verse 27 and following. And I would invite somebody who would like to have the honor of the Aliyah to the Torah. Would your family like to come up for the blessing before and after the Torah? The boys can stay if they want. Amen. Amen. Lechu v'nim karenu liyishmaelim v'yadanu al tehi bo ki achenu b'sarenu hu v'yishmu echav v'ya'avru anashim midyanim socharim v'yimshechu v'ya'alu et Yosef min habor v'yimkaru et Yosef liyishmaelim ba'asarim kasef Vayaviu et Yosef Mitzrayma. Vayashov Reuven el Habor, v'hine ein Yosef babor. Vayikra et begadav. Vayashav el echav, vayomar, hayeled einenu, ve'ani ana ani ba. Vayikru et ketonet Yosef, vayishchetu seir izim, vayit balu et hakutonet badam, vayishlechu et ketonet hapasim, vayaviu el avihem, vayomru. Zot matzanu, hakernet et hakatonet binchahi, imlo, vayakira, vayomer, ketonet bani, chaya ra'ah achalatu, tarof toraf Yosef, vayikra Yaakov simlotav, vayasam sak benmotnav, vayitabel al beno yamim rabim. Amen. Yasher koach. And we're going to do Misha Berach right now. Okay. And so we turn our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers to those who are in need of healing as we turn in our Siddur to page 371 in the brackets. And if you're joining us through the blessing of technology and are thinking of those who are in need of healing and you want to add their names to the chat, feel free to do so at this time. We add our blessings of healing body, mind, and spirit to the following people in our extended Adith Emanuel family: Alex Rudolph, Zev Kane, Tristan Sheehan, Renee Capucci, Ada Velez, Nathan Feinberg, Terry Bittman, Anita Fowler, Jill Cullen, David Ebb, Jocelyn Jackson, Elaine Stein, Ethan Cheskis, Moshe Ben Chenoch V'Shoshana, Iris Nadell, Mary Lou Salvador, Chris Cheney, Stuart Ettinger, Philip Lutz, Jerry Dreskin, Yochanan Ben Yehudit, Merrill Green, Joe Wright, Libby Barsky, Carol Levine, Malcolm Fletcher, Ellen Bertuglia, Mindy Fisher, Harry Greenberg, Nick Baud, Deb Nielsen, Moshe Ben Elizabeth Theodore, Jennifer Ness, Harriet Eisner, Chaim Ben David, Hugh Morton, Art Bond, Roberta Levine, Jordan Steinberg, Jeff Schaefer, Michael Infanti, Gary Garnick, Rick Ulrich, Ileana Cohen. And if there are others whose names we'd like to add at this time, I invite those who are here in person, as my hand passes through the congregation, to mention those names aloud. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Mi shebeirach Avotenu Mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha labotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. As we're able, we now rise in body and spirit as we lift and dress Torah. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. We turn now to the reading of our Haftarah for this Shabbat morning, and it can be found in your plowed Chumash on page 352, page 352. It's from the book of Amos, chapter 2, verse 6 and following. And do we have somebody who will be reading the Haftarah where the microphone is? Sam, would you like to read? Barry, would you like to read it? Would you feel comfortable? Sure. Okay. So we'll do the blessings first on page 372. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hane'emarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher baTorah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Go ahead. Page 352 in the Chumash, in the larger blue book.
Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel, for 4 I will not revoke it, because they have sold for silver those whose cause was just, and the needy for a pair of sandals. Ah, you who trample the heads of the poor into the dust of the ground, and make the humble walk a twisted course, father and son, go to the same girl, and thereby profane my holy name. They recline by every altar on garments taken in pledge, and drink in the house of their God wine bought with fines they imposed. Yet I destroyed the Amorite before them, whose stature was like the cedars, and who was stout as the oak, destroying his boughs above and his trunk below. And I brought you up from the land of Egypt and led you through the wilderness 40 years to possess the land of the Amorite. And I raised up prophets from among your sons, and Nazirites from among your young men. Is that not so, O people of Israel, says the Lord? But you made the Nazirites drink wine and ordered the prophets not to prophesy. Ah, I will slow your movements as a wagon is slowed when it is full of cut grain. Flight shall fail the swift, the strong shall find no strength, and the warrior shall not save his life. The bowman shall not hold his ground, and the fleet-footed shall not escape, nor the horseman save his life. Even the most stout-hearted warrior shall run away unharmed that day, declares the Lord.
One more page. One more page, 354.
Hear the word, O people of Israel, that the Lord has spoken concerning you, concerning the whole family that I brought up from Egypt. You alone have I singled out of all the families of the earth. That is why I will call you to account for all your iniquities. Can 2 walk together without having met? Does a lion roar in the forest when he has no prey? Does a great beast let out a cry from its den without having made a capture? Does a bird drop on the ground in a trap with no snare there? Does a trap spring up from the ground unless it has caught something? When a ram's horn is sounded in a town, do the people not take alarm? Can misfortune come to a town if the Lord has not caused it? Indeed, my Lord God does nothing without having revealed his purpose to his servants, the prophets. A lion has roared. Who can but fear? My Lord God has spoken. Who can but prophesy?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah v'al ha'avodah v'al hanvi'im, V'al yom ha-Shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha, lechavod ultifaret. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umbarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai, tamid leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. So our Torah portion this morning, I noticed, it's the story, it says Vayeshev Yaakov, which means Jacob settled, and then it's really about introducing Joseph, and Jacob favoring Joseph, and giving him a coat of many, many colors. Well, it's actually Kotonet Pasim, maybe that means striped, but Andrew Lloyd Webber has turned it into a Technicolor dream coat. And the purpose of the coat was as a favorite, showing favoritism to this one child of all the children, all 13 of them. And then, no surprise that the siblings, and this is a very strong word, but that's the word hate, grow to hate Joseph. And he doesn't just take the coat and walk around, look how nice I look in my dad favors me most garment, but he also has these dreams. And in these dreams, he prophesies maybe, or are these the dreams that tell the future? Well, in this case they are, where he's above and they're below, and we know how the Joseph story unfolds. In the end, Joseph does rise up to be second command in Egypt, and the brothers come to beg for food because of the famine in Canaan. But what's really interesting as I read this Torah portion this week especially is the repetition of the number of episodes of deceit and lying. So I have a handout, and Judaism teaches us that it's okay sometimes, we're going to have to share, I know, that it's okay sometimes to lie, right? That if the occasion calls for it for a worthy reason, that we can do so. What are those circumstances? Well, if you're going for the sake of shalom bayit, for preserving peace in the home, I have enough. Or the sake of pikuach nefesh, which is saving a life, then we are able to do that. Or if there might be another reason that we discover today. And so here are some stories that come from our Torah portion this morning that I thought we can go through. And what we'll do is we'll read through all of them. And then after reading through all of them, we can pick and choose which stories we want to maybe shine a spotlight on, and talk about what is the deception that happens, what is the lie therein, and if this was something that might be worthy of the deception that happens therein. If we go back to the story of Jacob and Esau, where the blessing is going to Jacob instead of Esau, because Esau was the firstborn, we know that it seems there is a repetition generation to generation where the younger rises up above the elder. We get it with Isaac over Ishmael, Jacob over Esau, and we get it over Joseph and his sons. So let's look at this first. This first story is part of what I read this morning. This morning I'll just going to start a few verses before what we have in the text. So this is not on your page yet. Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, but let us not do away with him ourselves. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers agreed. When those Midianite traders passed by, the brothers pulled Joseph up out of the pit. They sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who brought Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he rent his clothes. That's a sign of mourning, right? Returning to his brothers, he said, "The boy is gone. Now what am I to do?" So verse 31, we pick up now on the page. Oh, and let's see if I can put this into the chat. I'm sharing a sheet. Let's see if this works. Okay, yeah. Okay, so they took Joseph's tunic, slaughtered a kid, and dipped the tunic in the blood. They had the ornamented tunic taken to their father, and they said, "We found this. Please examine it. Is it your son's tunic or not?" He recognized it and said, "My son's tunic." A savage beast devoured him. Joseph was torn by a beast. Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth on his loins and observed mourning for his son many days. Okay, so we're just going to put that in our heads, think about the deception that is contained therein. Next one, this is a little longer. This is the story, it starts out with Tamar in chapter 38, but this is Judah withholding his youngest son, and then we're going to go into the part where Tamar does her own deception. So Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Stay as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up," for he thought he too might die like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house. Just to elaborate, the deception here is that Judah says to Tamar, we'll wait till the youngest son grows up, and then you can marry him, because she married the two older brothers, and there's this law, this Levirate marriage, that if a woman marries a man and that man dies, then she should marry the next closest male kin, so that the line continues through that family. And Judah withheld his son. Okay, so here, let's turn the page, this longer one on the back of the first page, where Tamar is now tricking Judah, or deceiving him. And Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is coming up to Timnah for the sheep shearing." She took off her widow's garb, covered her face with a veil, and wrapping herself up, sat down at the entrance to Enaim. We're going to skip through the italics, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown up, yet she had not been given to him as wife. So when Judah saw her, he took her for a harlot, for she had covered her face. So he turned aside to her by the road and said, "Here, let me sleep with you," for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. "What," she asked, "will you pay for sleeping with me?" He replied, "I will send a kid from my flock." But she said, "You must leave a pledge until you have sent it." And he said, "What pledge shall I give you?" She replied, "Your seal and cord and the staff which you carry." So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she conceived by him, and she went on her way. She took off her veil and again put on her widow's garb. Judah sent the kid by his friend the Adullamite to redeem the pledge from the woman, but he could not find her. He inquired of the council of that locale, and he, skipping the italicized words, "Where is that prostitute?" Skipping that, "the one that at Enaim by the road." But they said, "There has been no prostitute here." So he returned to Judah and said, "I could not find her." Moreover, the local council said, "There's been no prostitute here." Judah said, "Let her keep them, lest we become a laughing stock. I did send her this kid, but you did not find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar has played the harlot. In fact, she's pregnant from harlotry. Bring her out." Said Judah, "She should be burned." And as she was being brought out, she sent this message to her father-in-law, "It is by the man to whom these belong that I am pregnant." She added, "Examine these. Whose seal and cord and staff are these?" Judah recognized them and said, "She is more in the right than I, inasmuch as I did not give her to my son Shelah." And he was not intimate with her again. Okay, and we have this other example from Potiphar. So the story from here is Joseph gets sold. We could pull the Tamar right out of the parsha. It doesn't have any continuity. And we have the episode now with Potiphar, who has bought Joseph, and Potiphar's wife is similarly similar theme to the story before. So after a time, his master's, that's Potiphar, wife, Mrs. Potiphar, cast her eyes upon Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused, Joseph. He said to his master's wife, "Look, with me here, my master gives no thought to anything in his house, and all that he owns he has placed in my hands. He wields no more authority in this house than I, and he has withheld nothing from me except yourself, since you are his wife. How then could I do this most wicked thing and sin before God?" And much as she coaxed Joseph day after day, he did not yield to her request to lie with her, but to be with her. One such day he came into the house to do his work. None of the household being there inside, she caught hold of him by his garment and said, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and got away and fled outside. When she saw that he had left in her hand and had fled outside, she called out to her servants, here's her lie, and said to him, "Look, he had us bring the Hebrew to dally with us. This one came to lie with me, but I screamed loud, and when he heard me screaming at the top of my voice, he left his garment with me and got away and fled outside. She kept his garment beside her until his master came home. Then she told him the same story, saying, the Hebrew slave whom you bought into our house came to dally with me, but when I screamed at the top of my voice, he left this garment with me and fled outside. Of course, we know the result of the story is that Joseph then goes into prison. So because of this lie. So these are the questions. So we talked about the reasons Judaism says it's okay to show deceit or perhaps to lie. And for what reasons of the above examples do we see lying and deceit? And do you believe any of these are right? And what, if anything, can be done to break that cycle of deceit and lying, which is lying for the wrong reasons? And we will pass the microphone around, and if you are going to share a thought, I would invite you to share your name first. Thank you.
Sam Huberman, it occurred to me that the Dinah episode is also an example of deception with Jacob's sons. Shechem's his tribe wanted them to intermarry with Jacob's tribe, and the sons persuaded the men from there to undergo circumcision, and then when they were in a very weakened state, they were all murdered.
By Levi and Simeon. Yeah, so there's another example of Jacob's sons, or the generation to follow, that follows the deception.
Jacob was, I guess, very much taken aback at the misdeeds of his sons.
Thank you. So hand over here, say your name first.
Hal Lichtman. It interests me that even though there were these deceptions, in the end they all turned out. The deception or the lies that Joseph's brothers told, but look where Joseph ended up, helping in the end his family to survive. So it's interesting how all these stories, came to a good ending. So it's almost like Hallmark stories.
Right. Does the means justify the ends? Right. So what if? Well, this is an interesting story. What if the brothers told Jacob, their father, that we sold that liar, that he didn't lie, that dreamer, we sold him instead of we killed, or not that we killed him, because they didn't, that this beast killed him, right? What if that? Would that have changed the story any?
Well, it may have, because then the father would look on the sons as
Go get him.
or something, yeah, and it may have changed history totally.
Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts about these examples?
This is just Ivan Rudolph. This is just a personal reflection on that story of Joseph. I personally would never forgive those brothers. And the only good part about the story is Reuben, the oldest son, has the responsibility to say, no, you don't kill your own flesh and blood. And there are some very brutal stories in the Chumash. You can't believe how they slit throats and stoned people to death. But I'll never forgive those brothers. That's your own flesh and blood. You don't do that, period.
Well, what's
So-
interesting is Jacob at the time doesn't think that his other sons have done anything bad. If you just looked at the scene through the eyes of Jacob, Jacob sends out Joseph, go look for your brothers, go find them. He finds his brothers, and they end up selling him after the pit, throwing in the pit. And they come back and they tell a story that Joseph got killed not by, by a wild beast, right? I mean, Jacob draws that conclusion to by himself, and the brothers, that's part of their story. That's why they dipped the tunic in the blood to begin with. So that's what their father would think. They didn't have to say it, right? Have you ever, not said anything, and then somebody draws the conclusion and is like, okay, they drew the conclusion. I didn't say it. You did, right? So that's also part of the deceit, is that they didn't swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They withheld the truth and let their father draw the conclusions, so that the father didn't think necessarily that the other brothers at that moment did anything wrong. However, what's interesting about what you draw the attention to Reuben, when he goes to the pit and sees that Joseph's not there, he tears his clothing, just like Jacob does later, a few lines down, because Reuben is under the impression that Joseph has died. And then he goes to his brothers and he says, the boy is gone, now what am I to do? Those brothers actually don't tell Reuben at that moment, we don't get it in the text, what they did while Reuben was going to go back and get Joseph out of the pit. Somehow Reuben was off wandering to the pit and missed the brothers taking him out of the pit and selling him. Somehow, I don't know if there was, landscaping that blocked it, but Reuben's not aware, according to the plain reading of the text, of what the other brothers did. And that's also a deception I see in the story. Okay.
Hi, my name is Edmund. I'm so glad we read the Haftarah as well, because I noticed something I never noticed before. There are two references in the Haftarah to the story.
Right.
The first is Hosea warns against selling people for silver, right?
Right.
Which is what Joseph's brothers did. And then he complains about father and son going to the same girl, which is the Tamar story as well, because Judah and his son cohabited with the same woman. So that's also mentioned in this week's Torah portion as well. The final point, though, more seriously, is that when Jacob is told that his son, in this case his favorite son, is dead, he says he's going to be in mourning until the last minute of his life. He's going to go down to Sheol in a state of mourning. And having lost a son, I know how he felt.
Thank you for sharing that. Sure. You just introduce your name.
I'm sorry. My name is Beverly Weiss. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. I was thinking, although it's not in this particular parashah, that there's something very modern that we do today, or we try to do today, and it applies to having the ability to lie about something. And I was thinking about a bride, that you're never supposed to tell or say that the bride is ugly. And that, even if it's a lie, and you believe she is not beautiful, that you tell her she's beautiful anyway. And the same applies to an infant in a carriage today, that even if the baby isn't pretty, you're not supposed to say, "Oy, what an ugly baby." You're supposed to say something neutral that may be true, but it's not what you think about telling the mother that she has a not-so-pretty baby.
So two comments on that. There's a passage that I didn't put on this page, but I have come across time and again. It's from the Talmud. And there, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, Rabbi Shammai and Rabbi Hillel used to argue about things, and their followers would continue those arguments. Beit Shammai said to Beit Hillel, if she, the bride, was lame or blind, does one say of her beautiful and graceful bride? Whereas the Torah said, keep away from a lie. So Shammai says, don't say anything. Beit Hillel said to Beit Shammai, according to your words, if one has made a bad purchase in the market, should one praise it in front of him or denigrate it? Surely one should praise it in front of him. Therefore, the sages say one should always have a pleasing disposition in front of other people. That's where you always praise the bride, right? I met a rabbi who was in the Chicago area for a long time, Rabbi Arnold Jacob Wolf of blessed memory, and he used to say sometimes he would do these baby namings, and these babies weren't cute and cuddly and whatever. He used to say, now there's a baby. And everybody would think that that's his, way of saying how cute, but he didn't lie. But he kept that as well. Anybody else who hasn't had a chance to share want to say some words or a comment? Okay.
For me, this is...
Your name?
Larry Marcus. The thing for this one is, Torah's trying to teach that, that when you lie and you deceit and there's favoritism, oftentimes tragedy or sad events occur that you have to be very careful, both as parents and as with people in general. So you don't end up continuing the favoritism and the lying.
Right, and unfortunately, if our Torah were a model on that, trying not to favor and not to lie, we see these stories repeat themselves through the generations. And that's why I'm thinking, what is it we can do to help break it? Maybe what we're doing now and studying it and saying, this was maybe a way to show that, in the end, it happens and gets to the place where we need to. But unless the lie or the deceit is for something like Shalom Bayit or Pikuach Nefesh or something else, I would say in the Tamar story, it was for this following this particular law back in the day, and perhaps that was reasonable. That we really do want to work at breaking the cycle of deceit and lies.
Just one thought, that there was no punishment for the deceit and the lies that were programmed here. The sons of, the brothers, of Joseph didn't, even when it came out what happened, they were not punished in any way.
Interesting. So they weren't punished for that. One might say, well, reaching the famine, that was, yeah, so that one could interpret that way. But if we're looking at these multiple examples, and including Jacob's deceit of Esau, there's no immediate punishment or for those crimes. Sam?
Jacob seemed to have a lot to say about his sons at the end of the book of Bereshit. His last, he got the last word in, and it was pretty nasty.
So Jacob's, let's say his blessing at the end, he got to pick on each child, and not all of them he said favorable words about. Interesting. So we'll wrap it up here. I was thinking, well, what's our lesson? What do we learn from today? If this is such a prominent repeat generation to generation, this is not the tradition that I as a rabbi or I as a parent or, God willing, one day be a grandparent, want to pass down to the generations that follow me. And I had a rabbi who said, don't preach against the Torah. We try to look at the Torah and focus on what's good in it. And if you see something in the Torah, don't say, that's stupid, or that's wrong, but rather maybe I'm stupid because I don't get it. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's a literary device that we have in the Torah, that if we tell things that are a little bit, create a conflict, then that story becomes more exciting. And we listen to the story. And so we see that this device, this literary device, is used again and again, perhaps to have the listeners hear the story, but ultimately what our goal is, I think, for me at least, as a human being and a Jew, is to follow the mitzvot. And maybe that's a lesson that we can learn from Vayeshev. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now in our Siddur as we turn the Torah to the Ark to page 374. Page 374. As we're able, we rise in body and spirit. You want to take the Siddur? Thanks. Eitz chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. And we remain standing as we turn to Aleinu at the bottom of page 586, 586.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגור עלינו ככל המונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We turn our thoughts and prayers now to those who are in need of healing, and to those who are no longer with us, and so we turn in our prayer book to page 598 and 599. As we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, we announce with sadness the death of Charlotte Elner, mother of Ken Elner and Karen Fetterman Elner. And the funeral is going to be private, but there will be a Shiva here at Addith on Monday beginning at 5:30 with a service at 7. We think of those who died during this period of Shiva and Shloshim. Carla Teish, sister of Helen Grimm and David. Renee Rosenberg, sister-in-law of Mark and Deborah Rosenberg. And also those who died at the season in years past, whose yahrzeits we mark on the Shabbat. Steve Abeloff, James Ager, Harvey Alpert, Jeffrey Antonoff, Jeannie Baker, Stephen Branch, Regina Boudet, Rhoda Cohen, Ray Fink, George Frank, Leonard Gittler, Rabbi Roland Gittleson, Goldie Goldis, Bernard Jevatoski, Franklin Katz, Dorothy Kavitsky, Harold Kay, Joyce Lessman, Harold Levitt, William Mannheimer, Alexander Rubin, Gerald Rubin, Robin Rudolph, Reba Savar, Esta Silverberg, Nathan Silverberg, Maureen Suchin, Helen Weintraub. And if there are other names that we should add this time, if you're joining us through Blessing of Technology, feel free to add those names. And others who are here in person, you can say those names aloud as my hand passes through the congregation. Zichronam Livracha, we think of them, those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own, and those for whom there is no one to say Kaddish, as we continue with those words on page 598. Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'alma Divra, Chirute, V'amlich Malchute, B'chayechon, Uv'yomechon, Uv'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uv'izman Kari V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Omei Almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata d'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav Huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. May be seated. And today for our Kiddush so for those who are not familiar, following our services, we invite everyone to join us in the library for Kiddush and Motzi, and we thank Sam for providing us with that today. Are there other Hodaot, other announcements to share? I have two Hanukkah related. One is this coming Thursday is the Mount Laurel candle lighting for the second night of Hanukkah, December 26th at 7 p.m. at Rancocas Woods. It's 118 Creek Road. I'm able to remember the address because it's got that 18 in there. So I have the honor of lighting, and our children's choir will be singing some songs with Sandy, and everyone is welcome. Bring your Jewish and non-Jewish neighbors and friends with you. And then also next Friday night is our Shabbat Hanukkah. We're going to begin at 7:10 in the social hall. For individuals who bring their own Chanukiot. We'll say the blessings together and increase the light in our midst before we come into the sanctuary. Other Hodaot to share? Okay, so for our closing song, any requests? Okay. So let's do an oldie but goodie, Adon Olam. Do you have a particular melody? Okay. We'll do the oldie but goodie melody. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra liet nasa v'chepto kol azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot kol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hobeh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara, page 625 in the brackets, third verse. V'hu echad v'ein sheni l'hamshir lo l'hachbira b'li reshit b'li tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra v'hu eli v'chai go'ali v'tzor chebli beit Sarah v'hu nisi umanos li menat kosi b'yom ekra b'yado afkid ruchi b'eit ishan v'a'ira Ve'im ruchi geviati Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat shalom.